Good day, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to This Day in History. It is June 2nd, 2024. Kind of had a little bit of an eventful day. I preached a sermon at church today. Dropped off my buddy, and then I just wrapped up a podcast that I participate in. And what was really bad is like either the reception was bad, or I don't know, my phone just wasn't interfacing as it should, and I could hardly hear everybody on the podcast. So it's one of those podcasts where I rarely have anything to say. So I was pulled off the side of the road. I was at a truck stop, and it was just way too noisy. So I tried to go down the street a little bit. Yeah, at any rate. It's been a day. It's a liquid sunshine kind of day, so you can probably hear my windshield wipers going to and fro. You might even hear the rain. I don't know. At any rate, it's a late spring day. What do you expect? But we have some interesting stuff today for This Day in History, and it's not the list itself. When I looked it up on my phone there, the list itself wasn't too long. It did fill up the page, but how about we just get right into it, huh? So the first birthday is 1740. Marquis de Sade, lowercase d-e, S-A-D-E. So I'm assuming that's pronounced Marquis de Sade. I don't know. He is a French nobleman. He is known for his very perverse and erotic writings. So, I guess he fashioned himself after being a romance novelist, or like those smut novels. I don't know. 1840, we have a British writer, and the bulk of his work centered around Wessex, which was or at least Wessex is a fictional country in southeast England. At least that's what his writing was about, was the fictional country of Wessex. He was born on this day in 1840. In 1904, we have an American swimmer and an actor by the name of Johnny Weissmuller, and he was born on this day. In 1940, we have Constantine II. He was the king of Greece from 1964 to 1974. His birthday is today in 1940. You know what? I skipped one. So, on this day in 1930, Pete Conrad was an American astronaut. His birthday was today. 1953, we have Cornel West, born on this day. And he was an American philosopher. He was a political activist. His birthday was today in 1953. 1956, Mani Ratnam is that's his birthday today. He's a filmmaker from India. So that is the birthdays for today in This Day in History. We go start our day in history on this day in 1865. You have a bunch of Confederate troops. They surrendered to the Union in Galveston, Texas, and it would be one of the last land operations in the Civil War. So, if you recall, back in April, I said that just because Lee had surrendered to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9th, that didn't necessarily mean that the Civil War was officially over. It just meant that the war was over on that side of the country. There was still fighting going on in the Midwest. Clearly, Kansas, Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma areas, they were still embroiled in trying to keep, they were trying to ensure that the North did not win the Civil War, but I mean, clearly that happened regardless. So that was 1865. 1886, we have Frances Folsom. Now, at the age of 21, she married President Grover Cleveland in the White House. And at that tender age of 21, she became the youngest First Lady in American history. So that happened on this day in 1886. In 1941, if you've ever heard of Lou Gehrig, he was a baseball player. He was revered for his commitment to the game. He had the most consecutive games played in his career at the time. It is on this day in 1941 that Lou Gehrig would pass away 2 years after having been diagnosed with ALS. And ALS is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease because it was, they basically named it after him. But he fought his battle for 2 years before he passed. And it was on this day, 1941, that he passed. We fast forward to 1946. And what's interesting here is that Italy, it is on this day in 1946 that Italy would pass a referendum basically doing away with their monarchy system of government to embrace a republic system of government. What's the difference? Well, the difference is they did away with monarchy, king, or an absolute ruler who is beholden to nobody, who doesn't answer to any kind of checks and balances, to a republic, which is a system that does employ checks and balances. The United States, we are a republic. We're a constitutional republic. Our Constitution guarantees that all government branches, not only do they support each other, but they have vetoing powers over each other to keep each other in check and to ensure that no one branch of government has the absolute power over the other. Case in point, the legislative body, they're the ones who make the laws. The president doesn't make the laws because he's the executive branch. He executes the laws. He puts them into effect. He signs them into effect. He enforces them. That's his job. But then you have the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court, who basically maintains the legality of the laws that are passed. Sometimes Congress and Senate, they pass laws and it gets challenged and it goes up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, nope, not constitutional, shouldn't have passed in the first place because it's not legal. Those kind of checks and balances are in place in a government like ours, a republic like ours. Likewise, we are beholden to a a constitution as our as the law of the land. So it's not man that gives us our. It's not one man, one woman, whatever that gives us our laws. We have a body that votes on them and enacts them in good faith for the common good. So it's never one person in charge. And so that's what Italy basically did in 1946. They did away with the monarchy system, and they adopted a republic system. Okay. We fast forward to 1997. It's on this day in 1997 that domestic terrorist Timothy McVeigh would be found guilty of his crime, and of course that was the April 19th, 1995 bombing of the Murrah building in Oklahoma City, where it killed 168 people. He was convicted of those charges. He was sentenced to death, and that death sentence was carried out in June of 2001, I believe, or 2000. No, it was 2000. So he was sentenced to death, and then he was executed 3 years later. And like I've said before, it's not my place to judge the man's soul, but at the same time, it's a good riddance to bad rubbish. He doesn't exactly strike me as the type that he sought any kind of remorse or had any kind of remorse for his actions. He was actually quite proud of them. When given an opportunity to address the victims, he basically just glared at them, mean-mugged them, just glared at them as they executed him. So not a nice guy. 2008, a music icon. He was very influential. He was an American singer, songwriter, and influence on many musicians, in the present day. He had a lot of influence over rock and roll, and he just was an amazing guitar player. Bo Diddley. He was, he's just a phenomenal musician. Well, he died on this day in 2008, and he died at the age of 79. It was. In case I didn't say it, when Lou Gehrig passed away, he was only 37, which is, that's still pretty young. So the last thing on the list, and it's it's kind of the featured event, really. That's why it's kind of out of context. It's certainly not in chronological order, but it is on this day in 1953 that Queen Elizabeth, yes, the same Queen Elizabeth that just passed away a couple years ago, or a year or so ago, she would be crowned Queen of England on this day in 1953. This is on she was 27 years old, and she was crowned Queen of England upon her father's death, and her father had passed away February of that year. So her father passes. A few months later, she becomes the Queen of England, and she ruled the British Empire for many years, obviously, because she was well into her 90s. She was almost 100 years old, I think. Because Prince Philip, when he passed, he was like 96, I think. but she lived through a lot, and she did a lot for her country. I know there's probably going to be some people that disagree with me, especially if you're from that region. I know that I have a good friend of mine from Scotland, and he was not a big fan of Margaret Thatcher. He was not a big fan of Queen Elizabeth. A good Scotsman that he is, I just don't think he just really liked the English a whole lot, because, well, Scots in the English, some Irish in the English, so they just, I worked with another Scotsman when I lived in Kentucky. Billy was his name. Super cool guy. I love the guy. With his roguish accent, he would, he called me by my name, but instead of it sounding like Bill, it always sounded like he was saying Bull. So it always sounded like he was calling me Bull, and I'm thinking Bull Shannon from Night Court, if you've ever seen that TV series. But I remember when the news broke about Queen Elizabeth passing away, I offered my condolences to him. Like, I don't know if it means anything to you, but my condolences for the loss of your queen. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't bother me too much. I mean, I live here in America now, and she was old. She lived a long life, so I'm not going to be too terribly sad about it. But thanks for the sentiment. He was one of few people that he had nothing bad to say about the Queen of England. He had nothing bad to say about Margaret Thatcher. The policies that the British government had imposed, there in Scotland, he profited well off of that. They benefited him financially. So like he didn't have any axe to grind against him, but he also understood why it was that certain people, just did not like the British government. So, but yeah, so that's this day in history, and we'll be back again tomorrow for June 3rd, and I forgot to give a special shout out yesterday. Right, yesterday was the birthday of a really good friend of mine in Texas, Gigi, my Gigi. I wished her a happy birthday on Facebook, and I messaged her and all that. But I am going to wish her a happy belated birthday again on this platform. So happy birthday, love you. I hope you had a great day. And that reminds me, the reason why I bring that up is because tomorrow is the birthday of my music teacher when I was in the 6th grade. I was in the 6th grade. I played violin when I was in the 5th grade. Hated it. Mom wanted me to do it again in the 6th grade. I kept ditching class, and finally it came about that our drummer was moving away, and so they needed a new drummer for the 6th grade band. And so this teacher had a compromise. She's like, hey, look, your mom wants you in music, I want you in music. How about this? Clearly you don't want to do the violin. What do you say about the drums? Well, I played drums that year. And we went and participated in a festival, the Rose Festival here in Portland. And we were in the Junior Rose Parade that year. And it was the first time that my hometown of Oregon City was invited to participate in Portland's Rose Festival, the Junior Rose Festival Parade. We participated in that day. And we had a drill team. The 5th grade girls were part of a drill team, and because we didn't have separate banners between the band and the drill team to be separately judged. We were all judged together as one big unit, as one big group. So I remember seeing these kids that were like, 7th and 8th grade, because 6th grade was considered junior high back then, and we were still elementary school. And so we did this thing, and we took first place. It was our first time ever there, and we took first place. And what made it special, what made June 3rd, 1987 so special, was that it was our first time, participating in the Junior Rose Parade. We took first place on our first time, and it was my music teacher's birthday. And I always remember that. So when June 3rd comes around, I always remember Mrs. McIntyre. So wherever she is, hopefully she's still with us, wherever she is, when June 3rd comes around, I always think of her, I think of that day, and I think of her birthday, and I always wish her a happy birthday. So that's tomorrow, June 3rd, and I mention it now in case I forget tomorrow. So at any rate, happy early birthday, Mrs. McIntyre. With that is this day in history for June 2nd, 2024. We will do it again tomorrow. Have a blessed day. Enjoy the weather. If it's nice where you are, it's rainy and overcast here. But either way, count your blessings, and just know that, any time that you get to wake up and draw a breath, that's a blessing right there. So take care, be well, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. We'll see you again soon. So take care. All right.